Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a 2023 LEGO set, Lloyds Mech Evo. No, Lloyds Mech Battle Evo. This set comes with two minifigures, costs around £20 in the UK, and comes with two fairly cool mechs. Taking a look at this just from like an initial thing, you can see that there's two mechs in two different styles, and both of them are the Evo kind of mechs. One of them does actually have an evolution, which I probably won't show too much off of, but I'll do a little thing at the end. And just to start things off, we will take a look at the main mech, Lloyd's mech. So here it is. It's fairly tall. You can see Lloyd's mask poking out there, and just to show you the main figure compared to the mech, if we remove him, you can see that it is fairly decently sized considering the price of the set and the general scale that they're going for. I think this does suit in quite well with the other Evo mechs and in its own kind of scale as well. Now this one has quite a unique design where it's obviously got the standard Evo mech joints here in green, but they've also added a bit of an extra thing on the back here which can be used as a set of wings. There's also this banner piece with a print. All of the parts in this set are printed. There's no stickers, which I am a massive fan of. This can obviously be angled forwards and backwards, and you saw earlier that I opened the cockpit. Turning it around, you can spin this around, which I really like. You can get some pretty different angles. That one kind of looks like it's more of a flight mode. And then, obviously, on the back, I accidentally knocked the sword out of his hands, but you can get some fairly unique poses, which I really like. You can also angle these things up and down if you want to. That's mainly to allow the arms to move up and down. Although even without moving them, they've still got quite a lot of posability. You can move them forwards quite a lot. You can move them out and back. And generally, I'd say these are pretty good. Another thing with the arms is that they both have printing on the shoulders, and again, if it will focus, and you can see that it's got these kind of basic hands, which I think do a good job at being mech hands, although there's no finger detail. It's literally just a place to clip a sword on either side. And then these also have wrist articulation, which I really like with this mech. It kind of gives it a bit more life, especially when posing it. Speaking of posing, it's got these nice legs, which have some of the Evo mech armour on the side. Fairly simple feet. One thing that I don't like about the legs and the feet is, with both mechs, is that there's just a gap here. I don't think like there's an intention to fill anything in. It's literally just a hole. Kind of makes it feel a bit cheap, but I mean, generally you're probably not going to see it unless you're like kicking out, and even then, it's probably just going to look like, I don't know, thruster from the foot or something, but I definitely would have preferred it if they had filled that in with at least something, maybe like some trans green pieces, or maybe continued with the trans orange parts, adding a few in there, kind of adding a bit more of that detail. Standard Evo legs, except for this bit on the back here, which is something that we've not really seen on other Evo mechs, which is basically just thrusters, I think, or you can use your imagination, but they do limit the foot articulation quite a bit, so you can see with them on, if it will focus, this is as far back as it will go. However, if you remove that, again, if it will focus, you can move the feet quite far back, so it is quite a difference, but the fact that you can just remove it and like it's very simple to move is still good, and you can still get really good forwards motion, which isn't affected by anything, and also sideways articulation if you want to do like a leaning thing. Look at that, one leg. Again, having issues focusing today. So yeah, you can get some pretty good poses, even with the limitations in the joints. Now, I won't talk too much about the other Evo since it's not that interesting. However, I will just show you guys the box. You can see that it is fairly simplified compared to the other version. I think it does work as its own thing, but there are definitely some awkward things like the random clips there, which I know are just to add things onto, so it's not too much of an issue. And I think most kids are going to prefer it in this mode anyway. You can maybe have it like green ninja, then gold ninja. I don't know what you want to do. However, it is cool. I still like both builds. It's just I slightly prefer this one. Like jetpack build can also be attached and is meant to be a weapon. I don't know how I feel about that, but it is kind of cool that you can do that, I suppose. Like, it's not that bad, horrible. It's just a bit awkward, a bit clunky. It says to hold it with the lower weapon, but I'd recommend holding it with this one. I think it just gives you a bit more range of motion. And again, why won't it focus? I'm so sorry. So yeah, I mean, it's nothing too bad. It's just a fun little bonus that you can take the sword off and use it like that. Now, looking at the villain's mech, you can see that it's got quite a nice design. Very different to the other one. However, one thing that I did forget to mention with the other one, and it's the first thing that I'm going to talk about here, is there is a lot of open gap on the side here, which does mean that you see a lot of the figure, but then again, from the front it looks good, just there's a lot of hollowness. And especially when you got the ninja in, from the top, when you got a ninja in, there is a lot of space. I don't really like that, but I mean, most of the time it's probably going to be like that. But yeah, from a top-down view, not a huge fan of that. I know you can probably just lean Lloyd forwards a bit more, but still, it just feels off. This mech does a pretty good job for the front. Even if I remove the canopy, it's quite close up to the figure and feels like it's actually surrounding him. However, from the side, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing on the form of the side. Like, I don't really like that. I would have preferred it if maybe there was something here that came forwards, or I don't know. It just feels like he's there. He is protected. I just wish that there's a bit more there. I know you can probably like find a way to swing these pieces around, which I'll talk about later, but if it'll focus. Hello, focus. Yeah, like, I wish I could fold these up and protect them a bit more, but you can probably easily make some adjustments. Now, to start this off, you kind of saw this earlier, where you can lift this top bit up and bring the bottom bit down, which I think is quite good. Gives you good access to the figure. Obviously, there's nothing around the sides to block you from getting to the figure. And you can get a pretty cool pose. You can angle this up more if you prefer it, or quite far down to cover him up. And I feel like that's quite a cool look, because you can see his head framed in this section here. Like, you can see his main minifigure head surrounded by this molded part, and then like the hat covering it, I think, is a really cool look. Speaking of the hat, you can remove it and give it to the mech as a shield, which I think it does quite a good job at doing. You literally just clip it into the hand, and then you can use it to defend the figure, and I feel like it does quite a good job. This side of the mech is fairly open to attacks, but looking at it straight on, it does cover quite a lot of it, and you can probably do a bit more posing where you like angle it round and stuff like that to get a lot more protection. So I really like the shield hat, really fun. You can even imagine him like taking it off and throwing it. You've already had a glimpse at the posability. It's not quite as good as the Lloyd mech, at least for the arms, because there's no hand articulation, there's no wrist articulation. The hand is just a clip on the main Evo joint, which I'm not a big fan of. I would have preferred it if they'd done something similar to Lloyd's mech, where you can pose the arm and then pose the wrist. But, you know, it is what it is. It does kind of limit a lot, especially with the weapon involved. So this mech's weapon is this double-ended scythe thing, which can be split apart and put in the other hand if you wanted to. But I feel like you can't really get that much of like a good pose. I would have preferred it if you could like... I definitely feel like the wrist articulation would have really helped when it comes to like posing this. At least in the arms, you can bring it across and you can do like slashes and down strikes, but you can't really... I wish that I could do that. I wish that I could like bring the arm across like that, but doing that, I suppose, but it is one of those things that I wish that had been upgraded slightly. Now, moving down to the legs, there is some really nice leg articulation, similar to Lloyd's. A lot of back, a lot of forwards, slightly less forwards than Lloyd's, but I don't think it's like an unacceptable amount, especially if you take that into consideration with the other leg. You can really like bring it up, and it's got good feet for this. Still got a hollow thing there. Why Lego? Why is that hollow? But yeah, it can get some really interesting and funky poses, you know, like, there you go. You got the mech on one leg, leaning really far over to the side, and it's doing a pretty good job of balancing itself, which I think is quite fun. Now, on the back, just real quick, you can see the skeleton parts pack being used for the scythe here, which I think adds some quite fun detail. Nothing too special, but it is still nice to have. Now I will take a look at the figures, and then we'll give you the final verdict. The figures included in this set I think are really good. I don't have much of a knowledge on the like design aspect for these core or these Evo minifigures, but I do really like this dude. Can't remember his name, but he is he's one of the basic villains of the set. And then we've got Golden Lloyd. I did think it was about time that we'd have a Golden Lloyd in core, because, you know, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they include a basic Gold Lloyd figure? And for a minifigure, I will take a closer look at him in a second. But for like a Golden Lloyd minifigure, I think this is really nice. There's a lot of really intricate detailing from like the dark green down to the torso, and into the legs. There's no footprinting, or like it kind of just stops at the shins, but I don't think that's too much of an issue. There is a difference in the colour of the green on the print, and then the green in the pieces, so like the green hands and the green mask. They are a slightly brighter shade of green than the torso, which, I mean, on camera it doesn't look that good, but in real life, I do think that it kind of adds a nice layer of contrast. And then taking a look at the back, you can't really see that much, so I'll remove his head, and you can see he's got some more of that continued printing. Bit plain there, you know, it just kind of like curls upwards with a slight crease, but I think it still looks nice. And then it's just a regular Lloyd head that we've had for quite a while now. Now, looking at the Bone Warrior, he comes with these 2 shuriken pieces for like the villain's parts pack, which I think is quite cool. Really like the use of them, and I will touch on the parts a bit later. Now, I won't remove any of the accessories or anything, because you can still see all of the torso printing, but it does come with this armor piece here, and quite a nice face print. No printing at all on the other side. I can understand if they didn't include a second face, because it's mainly going to be shown with like the thing on top with the horn pieces. But I definitely think adding a little bit of printing on the back would have been a nice bonus. It's not necessary. So here is a look at a small display that I've set with these, and honestly, these 2 mechs can be displayed in quite a nice way, especially with each other, where you got like Lloyd swinging his sword and the dude blocking it with his shield. The scythe isn't like touching the floor. That is honestly like, that was all just the thing being balanced, which I think this mech does a really good job of. Both mechs do it, where you can easily balance both of them on one leg without any issues at all. They're not perfect. I don't really like the fact that all of this side section for the skeleton mech is clear, and then obviously quite a lot of Lloyd's side is exposed, as well as the top. Out of the 2, I think I prefer this one, both for the colour scheme and for the like playability. The design sticks to itself. Lloyd's mech's just kind of another Lloyd's mech. It's nothing too special in my opinion. It's not bad by any means, but if this one had the wrist articulation, I think it would have been like, this is the best mech total, but this one does have the better articulation. This one has the better looks. The wrists for this one definitely need to be improved. It's very easy to do with your own pieces. I just definitely really think that it's limited, especially for the choice of weapon. And yeah, I think overall this is a really good set. The inclusion of all of the bone pieces, some of them are used in the mech, so I mentioned the shurikens, which the character holds, It's got the sai, which I really like. The sai are my favourite part of the build, and I think probably my favourite weapons to give the figures. The sword and the scythe and the sai, it's all really cool stuff that I think really adds to the set. And overall, I think I'd give this set an 8 out of 10. It's got flaws, but most of them are easy to either ignore or solve, and everything else about it does what it's intending to do. So, with all of that out of the way, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.